Hey, good day, folks. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg and his Genesis class. We're joined with many people from around the world in the Zoom room, and we got a new guest tonight, Leva Mouse, down in Oregon, which is just south of me. I'm up in British Columbia, Canada. We're joined by the McConaughey's in the UK, our friend Travis Cox down in Georgia, Jacob Jacobi over in India, Hans down in South America, and many, many, many others. Lelaine as well. I think she's in the Philippines. Lelaine, are you in the Philippines? It's always just a joy to be with people, like-minded people all around the planet. And we join to hear the light of Torah come out of the nation of Israel. And who better to share it with us than the Noahide World Center and Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. So let's just tune right in and see how Rabbi Goldberg's doing tonight. Rabbi Goldberg, how are you tonight? Welcome, and you're live on the air, sir.
Hi, good evening, everybody from Israel. Good to see you all. Good to see also the new people who are joining us inside the class. Welcome also. And those who are staying very late at night to be with us, it's also very appreciated. So I'm really glad to see you all. In Israel, we had very good days, very nice and shiny days. And we are also managing to defeat a bit the pandemic, but it won't help us that if we will be by ourselves. We need also to have the whole world that will manage to defeat this pandemic, this coronavirus. I want to start first of all with the England people. I'm saying the England people, those who don't really know how to speak English. They're speaking English with a bit weird accent. Angela and Mike there. I know. They think that they have the source of the English, but it's no. We improved it along the history. So hopefully, I know that you managed to get connected with Rabbi Abel, and we will try all of our best. We know him very long time, and also Rabbi Sherky knows his parents, and we spoke a few times, and hopefully we will manage to bring him inside to be part of to build up the community in England. So this is very good. I'm happy for that. I want to start with a question that I asked from people in this class, okay? Never mind who exactly. And the question was about the Messiah. A very important question, and I'm trying to give something here as a principle. Always when we are learning, we're speaking about principles, not only just explaining the Bible and what happened there. You know what, maybe I will say again something, a very important word that I think we said it once, but from time to time we need to remind ourselves. The Bible is not a history book. The Bible is trying to express to us the will of God. And God spoke with the Hebrew of Israel, with the Hebrew of the Israel people, and expressed in front of them what exactly his will. And he gave us not only the Bible, but also the oral Bible, something that was hidden from all of the nations until in the last day. It's very interesting to know, after the Holocaust, there was a very big debate in the Hebrew rabbi, between the Hebrew rabbis, if to start to say all the secrets that we have. I will say just mainly, I won't go inside to this. It's very long debates and a lot of answers and questions and all those things. We already mentioned that we have more than 80,000 books in the Hebrew library. But at the end of this debate, most of the rabbis agreed that it's a time to start to share with the world, with the other people in the world, not only the Hebrew people, all the oral Bible that we have. And we have two things here. So the things that we are learning are the way that the Hebrew people sages passed on along history. We have few explanations and few ideas, but we are preserving the things that were given to us through the prophet era. Now, the prophecy is a different, I will say, dimension in this world. And today we don't have prophecy for the last 2,400 years. So We can say to ourselves, so we lost it, okay? And it's only something of a very nice minded thing, very smart thing, this Bible. But the Bible is not a smart thing. The Bible is the words of God, is the will of God. And the Hebrew sages preserved something there since the time or the timing of the prophecy. And those are the things that we're trying to share here in this class. So we finished already 11 chapters and we saw a few things. And I want to remind us for a moment, and then I will go to the question that I had or I got, and I will explain to you what is happening. We saw in the beginning that God gave some sort of a commandment to Adam and Eve. And recall, this was in the period or in the time zone of Eden. I want to remind us all that it's a time before man came to this world. Okay, when someone, God forbidden, is dying, so we're saying to his grandson, Papa went to heaven. Heaven, but we see the body is being buried here in this world. So in heaven, we have only soul. So the stories in the first 3 chapters of Genesis are not really 100% familiar with us. But we see that there is some sort of, I will say, a test or some sort of a demand from God that men, Adam and Eve, will manage to preserve some sort of obey or some sort of something that God asking them to keep, not to eat from the forbidden tree. We know that they passed, they didn't kept the words of God. Therefore, he took them out from Eden and he brought them to this world. From there on, God is giving them all the opportunities, but from there on, the main thing is not the relationship between man and God, but more the relationship between man and his fellow men. And it starts with Cain and Abel. And we all know what happened between Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel, that at the end of the days, Cain killed Abel. When we learned it a few months ago, we showed that it's not so simple story, okay? We saw that Cain was a prophet there, Abel wasn't a prophet. Cain basically had a very good, I will say, demands from God. Abel didn't do exactly his mission. This is why God preferred, if I will say it like that Abel will pass away and Cain stayed. It's a bit much more deeper story, a profound story than just what when we are reading it. But we failed there. Also, Cain and Abel failed. And the main failure of Cain and Abel came at the end of the days of the time of the flood. And we spoke about the flood, and also in the flood, the humanity failed, and God decided to replace humanity and to start it from the beginning, like in a seed. Okay, God took Noah and his sons. Naamah, Noah's wife, was from the dynasty of Cain, and Noah was from the dynasty of Sheth, and both of them together brought up a new world. And then we saw in the last 2 meetings the problems with the Babylon Tower. Okay, some sort of a rebellion against God. Those are the things that we saw till now. We saw a lot of times where God is trying to give man opportunity to bring the Messiah. I will say it like that. I want to show you the hints for that. I will give you an example, okay? Let's share the screen for a moment. Let's go to the, let's show, for example, in Cain and Abel, okay? Cain and Abel, very simple story. Look what is written down here in Cain and Abel. Now it can, you see here, we're speaking about, Dan, you can read, please, verses number 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Now the man knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man with the Lord. And she continued to bear his brother Abel. And Abel was a shepherd of the flocks, and Cain was a tiller of the soil.
And now we're coming to a very interesting verse. It came to pass at the end of days. What is the end of days? What is the end of days, please, people? The end of days is the days of the Messiah. Cain and Abel can bring the Messiah. Okay? I know that people don't, when they're reading it, it's, it's reading it like that. No, it's hinting here that already the Messiah can come in the second generation. We explained this also in a very moral explanation, simple moral explanation. We have a very big gap, very big difference between man and God. God is giving life and man is only receiving life. You can't build relationship between two entities if one is just the opposite than the other one. So if God is only giving life and man is only receiving life, they are very, very far from one from each other. The only time that they are starting to get close one to each other is when man is giving more life, and then he is not only receiving, he is also giving. Therefore, Cain was, in some sort of a way, the Messiah for his parents. And he can bring the end of days, the Messiah. Now it failed. We explained already. It failed. Very nice. Unfortunately. Not nice. Unfortunately, it failed. It failed. So we have time in those years now in between to rebuild the right relationship between the brothers, okay, as it's written down here. And she continued to bear his brother Abel, okay? The brotherhood question, fine. We know that it failed a few times, fair enough. But now let's speak for a few moments about this issue of the Messiah, okay? And this is the question that I had. And it's very important to understand that because we are going to go in chapter 11 now to continue on with what's happening with the Hebrew people. But let me explain here something very fundamental with the Messiah era or with their understanding of the Messiah. There is a wrong understanding. It starts, unfortunately, from the Christian world, okay, that the Messiah will come like Harry Potter. Suddenly, he will come here. He will do some sort of a poof here, hocus pocus there, something magically, everything will change. This is, listen good, this understanding is coming from, unfortunately, it's coming from the Christian world, okay, a Christian understanding, but it's not the right way to think. Now, it happened this way in Egypt when the Hebrew people went out from Egypt. I won't go inside. You know what? I will explain in a few words what happened there. In the Egyptian era, when Moses came and gave all sorts of miracles, and the main miracle was to split the sea, that the Hebrew people will go inside, and the others, the Egyptians, would drown there. When Moses did those things, basically what he did, he said to the nature, I don't want you in this world. I don't care about you. You are nothing for me. When you are bothering me, I will demolish you. I don't care who you are. If you won't split and if you won't behave in the way that I'm asking you to behave, not in the nature way, in the way that is antithese, the opposite way of the nature. So I will, you will vanish in front of me. And the nature is very upset with this way of work, okay? The nature is complaining in front of God and saying, look, you created me. you in the sixth day, in the seventh day, you said that I'm going to be in this way, in this world. And when the world is coming to the Messiah time, when the world is going to go out from the black days, okay, of when the Messiah is still not here, the nature also wants to take part in this system,
Fulfillment.
in this behavior. What?
Fulfillment.
Yes, it wants to take part. The nature is saying, we as lions, okay, the lion world, we don't want to be very hard to all of the other part of the nature. We want to become part of this greater world. In the Egyptian redemption, we demolished the nature. Now, if you will look, for example, what is happening in the last 100 years, where the Hebrew people came back to their homeland, and it's a much bigger miracle because we didn't went out only from one country, the Egyptian country, to the Hebrew land. We went out from 200 countries. 200 countries we came back to our homeland. It's a bigger redemption. But this redemption is also with a nature, I will say, system. It's not against the nature. And it's taking also much longer time because the nature is something that is working with the time. Okay, you're putting a seed inside, you burying the seed inside the ground, and it will take its time that the tree will grow up. Sometimes it's taking also 6 and 7 and 8 years until the tree is growing up and giving fruits. This is the way of nature. But the redemption, the main redemption, when we're speaking about the Messiah to come, it's not all sorts of miracles. Miracle, miracle, miracle. No, not like that. Not like that. Now, believe me that inside this nature redemption, we have also all sorts of miracles. Have you ever heard about the 6-day war that we had? Okay, in those 6 days war, we multiplied, okay, the area of the Hebrew nation, and we came back to all of the Bible land. Okay, we didn't have Nablus, we didn't have Hebron, we didn't have Jerusalem, and we came back. It was 52 years ago, almost 53 years ago. In 6 days, suddenly, everything just all the way opposite. Okay, and it was a miracle way. But if you will ask, today, where the learning in the army, not only in the Hebrew army, in the Israeli army, also all over the world, when the learning in the armies, exactly what happened, there are a lot of logical nature explanation how we did it in 6 days. Okay, for example, in the first 4 hours, the Hebrew Air Force bombed all the how do you call it? All the airports of the enemy, okay, of Egyptians and the Syrian, and therefore we had for 6 days we were the only one on the air, and we had much more higher perspective than the other armies. So we can explain a lot of things in a logical way. In the other side, it still was a bit of a miracle in 6 days to have this upside down of everything. So there are jumps inside, but they are all in a normal system of the nature world, because the world and the nature want to be part of this redemption that we have today. And this is also what the Maimonides is explaining, and he's explaining this in his book. He says it in his clear words in the last chapter of his big book, of the halachic books, okay, in the Maimonides. And he's saying, don't think that in the days of the Messiah, all of the world is going to change from one side to another side. No, the world is going to behave in the same way. The main difference will be that the Hebrew people won't be underneath others. They will have their own governments, as we see today in the last 72 years. This is the end of days. So we didn't finish it. Okay, it's a long process. It might take 200 years. It might take 50 years, and it might take also 400 years. But when people think that the Messiah will come and suddenly, like Harry Potter, everything will start to change, this is something that we had already once in the Egyptians' time. And we see that not all of the world came and changed their ways of life. Only one person came. His name was Jethro, okay? The father of Moses. He heard, everybody heard, but he is the only one who changed his way of life and decided to stop everything and to come and to join to the Hebrew people. So to do all sorts of miracles is not changing people's life. It's only saying to them, okay, something here is weird, but I will continue on. The way to change people's life is by more and more working on the educational system. We need to know that. We need to do the best that we can do, and God will help us and assist us that it will be much faster than what we think. So we have here, for example, okay, we have Michaela, who is working hard, hi Michaela, to change a lot of things that we are doing to the Italian language. We have Netzach, hi Netzach, he's here quietly. Michaela is from Italy, okay? We have Netzach, that he is here from the Czech Republic. He is working very hard to change a lot of things into the language of the Czech Republic. We have here Matityahu. Hi, Matityahu. He is very quiet here also. He is from Poland. Michaela, speak with him. He's changing a lot of things to the Poland language. We have here Solovic. Hi, Solovic. She is from Germany. And she, with another person, hi, good evening, changing a lot of things that we are doing from the English language to the German language. We have another person who is working very hard with us about those things. And we have here, I can continue on. I can continue on more and more and more. Okay. You will be surprised because I have already in Chinese the book of Brit Shalom. For me, it's Chinese. I don't understand any word there. I got today, he's also here with us. Jacobi is with us from India, but he's from one part of India, and they are working on the Telugu language. But we have someone else, he was here before, a few minutes ago, and he is working about a different language in India, 14 hours train drive, okay? So we have more and more people that are moving and passing the message that we have to other languages. I admire all of you. I think that it's amazing. But this is the way that we will manage. By the I will remind also Lisette that here also with the English language, but she's also doing interesting things in the Dominican Republic in the Spanish language. By the way, in this moment also, we have another lesson in the Portuguese language. We have other people there. So this is the way that we will manage to bring the world to an upside down, okay? Like in the Egyptians' time, but in much more that all of the world will become to take part of this. So hopefully also we will see that when the Messiah will come, we will see a miracle here and a miracle there. But those miracles will be only a by-bonus. The main way is to do those things in the normal system, educational side, step by step. People will manage, people will acknowledge, people will join, people will participate, and this is the way that we will manage to bring the world to an upside down. Now it's going to be very fast, much faster than all of you think. It might take 10 years from now, even a bit less, but we will find ourselves suddenly with a very, very large community and people that will start to speak this language as one language from one side, with the uniqueness of each nation on the other side. And each nation have his own uniqueness. They have their own uniqueness. So this is a very important point to understand. The Messiah is not, we are not waiting that someone will come here and will become Harry Potter for, and will do all sorts of puffs, puff, 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 and that's it. This won't help. We tried this once when we went out from Egypt. It didn't change the whole world. It's only brought a lot of interesting things, the Hebrew nation, to the world, but it didn't change the world. We need to change the world. It's a work that we need to do. We are on the days that we can do this work. So I admire everybody who is part of this community and this helping and assisting with those things. And it's really honoring us, and we really admire that. And I think I explained that for the things that we had here. I have another very small question that I need to emphasize all the time more and more and more, and I need to say this also. Except for this issue, I want to address the issue of Shabbat. Okay, people asking us about Shabbat all the time. Shabbat, can we do the Shabbat? Can we say Shabbat Shalom? Can we light the candles and everything else? First of all, everyone who declared, everyone who stated in front of 3 rabbis and said that he is a Noachite, the declaration that we have today already in few languages, the truth is that he is permitted to do and to keep the Shabbat just like a Jewish person. Now, it's a big debate in the Hebrew sages. He is allowed, and I'm saying loud and clear, I'm not recommending that. Not only me, we are all not recommending that. You are allowed, we are not recommending. On the other side, of course, you can say Shabbat Shalom. It's very important to mention this day. How do you mention this day? Light 2 candles on the sunset. Light 2 candles. It will bring more light into your life. Do a special reunion of the family. Put aside all the devices. Sit down for an hour and a half. Discuss with the family. Do a special meal. Bring friends. Do something very unique. In the Shabbat morning, if you can do the day without working, great. If you need to work, don't lose your job because of that. Not at all. We are recommending to have also an hour or something like that to read the Parsha, to learn from the Bible, to discuss things with your friends about those things. So you're mentioning the Shabbat. You are stating this is a special day. You're showing that you are connected. The Shabbat is not only to mention the Shabbat, to express the Shabbat, to show the Shabbat. It's not only for the Jewish people. In the 10 Commandments, it says that in 6 days God created the world, not the Hebrew people, the world. And in the 7th day, he stopped. So when you're mentioning the Shabbat, you're getting connected with God. They're very simple. You don't need to be afraid. All the time people are asking us, yes, do light the candles, mention the Shabbat, don't hesitate. It's okay. You won't get any hard thing from that, only closer to God. This is the only thing that you will gain from that. And again, don't lose your job because of that. If you need to work from time to time on Shabbat, go on this. You're not, it's not, you're not permitted, it's not that you're not allowed to work on Shabbat. You need to mention the Shabbat. Fine, do it. Feel comfortable. Do this special day, some sort of mentioning of the special day. So this is very important. Also, I think I said it in the last month, something like 8 times, in all sorts of ways, in all sorts of places. So I will say this again and again and again until people will put it inside their heads. Mention the Shabbat. Show that it's important for you. It's very good. This is exactly what God is asking us to do. You don't need to do it in the full way as the Hebrew people do it, because it's very hard. It's very complicated. So, but do it in your way. Mention it in your way. So this is also a very important point I wanted to mention tonight. If there are any questions about the things that I said till now, this is the opportunity. When we will finish, please here, and he will start his path. Yes. Dan, do we have any questions?
Rabbi, if Dan doesn't have anything, I'll just mention that everything that you're mentioning about bringing the messianic times, bringing like the perfection, bringing to the perfection of the world, and how we don't subscribe to this kind of superhero that needs to come from outside to magically fix the world. I'm learning now with my wife. We're sitting down speaking about Shabbat. So we don't get a lot of time to learn together. We sit down, in our family meals, and we sit down and we learn 5-10 minutes of Kuzari in every meal. And just now we're in the first section of Kuzari, where the Kuzari king is speaking to the Christian, and now we're moving on to he's speaking to the Muslim. And you see a common thread in the Christian theology of this kind of pessimism about mankind, that God needs to come from the outside to atone for man's sins. That the commandments, the mitzvot, need to be done away with because man cannot possibly stand up to this demand. There are a couple of different points in this common thread that we saw that I think come from this kind of I think Rabbi Sherky actually talks about it in his commentary about this like pessimism about mankind that needs this like superhero entity to come from the outside to save man from himself.
More than right. I didn't want to go inside to this too much, but if you will think about this is also one of the reasons why in the last 100 years we have a lot of cartoons about Superman, Spider-Man, Supergirl, so, super, everybody's super there. So super family and everything else. Very nice. But this is what I won't be careful, okay? This is what the Christian world is living with, this idea that something super thing will come from outside of the world to help us. No, people, we can do the change inside with what we have inside ourselves. This is the main thing. And I want to say another very important thing. Till now, we've learned a very long time. I think it's almost 2 years, right, Dan? We're already 2 years in this Genesis lessons.
Not quite. Almost.
Yes. And we came to chapter 11, and I looked till chapter 11, and I tried to find the Israeli people, and I didn't saw them yet. Okay? The first 11 chapters of the Bible is speaking about all the nations of the world. The Hebrew people are still not here. So, and the Shabbat is already mentioned. So not only that you can keep the Shabbat, the Bible, first of all, is speaking to all humankind, period. Put this inside your mind, really, because it's so much annoying me to hear all the time when people are saying, but I don't know, it's not for us, only for the Jewish people. We will come to this part of the Jewish people, okay? We will see exactly what is their mission in this world and how exactly it's reflected to all of the others. At this point of time, almost 2 years, we are learning, and we never spoke only about the Hebrew people. We didn't mention them. They are not here. They are not, let's speak, for example, like it's a theater, and, we have scene number 1, scene number 2, all sorts of parts for the theater. The Hebrew people are not in the world yet, right? Nothing. So till now, what we've learned was for all mankind. Never mind from where, regardless, the skin, the color of the skin, if you're a man or a woman, if you're from this country or from the other country, speaks to everybody. We have a lot to learn from this. Till now, we learned a lot of things from this. We did a bit of conclusion till now. We did some sort of a summarize till now. But those are very important points. This is why we did it. Okay, we don't have any more questions about this.
We have, Rabbi, a question from Michaela. What is the difference between remembering and observing the Shabbat? Shema v'zachor.
Very good. It's the same relation that we have between active things and being not doing bad things, okay, or not doing other things. Zachor is to do active things, okay. For example, I'm lighting candles in the sunset, so I'm doing something positive. I'm acting. I'm taking candle and lighting 2 candles every Saturday night. Shamor is
Friday night, Rabbi. Sorry. Friday night.
Sorry, yes. And Shamor is to preserve, not to do things that will harm the Shabbat. Okay. For example, in the Hebrew tradition, one of the things that I'm not allowed to do is to to burn the fire on Shabbat. Okay, so for 24 hours, I'm not doing any flame. So I'm preserving, I'm not doing anything active. I'm just preserving myself not to do something that I'm not allowed. So those are the 2 things. And by the way, this is the reason why we're saying to light 2 candles. There are a few reasons. One of the reasons is for the family, one for the husband, one for the wife. There's another reason. One is for the Zachor, do active things for remembering the Shabbat, and one is for Shamor, hold yourself from not doing other things, okay? So there are a few reasons why we're doing those 2, and those 2 words are being said in the 10 Commandments. One is being said in the not in Genesis, in Exodus, okay, in the 10 Commandments, and the other one is being said in the Deuteronomy in chapter 6 there, okay? If I remember correctly, it's chapter 6. Those are 2 words that are being said in the commandment of Shabbat. Fine. Excellent. Lee, let's continue on with your things.
All right. Shavuot Tov, everybody. I'll wish everybody also a happy month of Adar. Our sages teach that when Adar, the month of Adar begins, we need to increase in joy. So I hope you're all feeling well and joyful from within and also from without. And as we said in the past, we'll dedicate our learning to the full and speedy recovery of all those who need it. So I wanted to touch on 2 questions that we got in last time. One from Travis. I think the other one was from Matityahu in the chat. I don't remember exactly, but the question from Travis was regarding the theme of the number 40 in the Torah. So we mentioned a couple of different examples of this. Okay, we mentioned like 40 days of Noach, according to like the simple understanding, 40 days of Noach in the ark. There's also the measure of 40 units, they're called se'ah, of water meant to build the ritual bath, the mikveh. You have the 40 days of Moshe on Mount Sinai receiving the Torah. You also have the 40 years of the children of Israel in the desert. And then we spoke about the example of 40 days until a fetus is considered like that it has been created. It's considered a fetus. We asked like, what is the common thread and how does it tie to the fetus? So we were basically 99% of the way there, Travis, but the common thread is essentially, suffice it to say that the number 40 symbolizes transition. Okay, so if with Noah and with Noach and with the mikveh, it's quite clear. Also with the Torah, it's quite clear. You're going from a transition of, let's say, before the receiving of the Torah and after the receiving of the Torah. You have the conduit of prophecy. You have in the mikveh and the ritual bath from impurity to purity. And so to here, you're going from what it cannot be considered life to what could be considered an independent life. And basically, suffice it to say, in Kabbalistic sources, it's written about 40 stages of transition in the creation of the world. So all of these examples, and there are plenty of others that appear, they point to this transition, okay, from one stage to another.
Thank you. So that's kind of like an evolution. You're transforming yourself. You're going from, it's like repentance. You transform, right? So it's a transformation from one life to the next life, one world to the next world. All right. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I mentioned to Rabbi Chaim, and I've also mentioned to you all in the past, I'm learning, I think, as much, if not more, from these classes as you are. So thanks again for sharing your time with me. The other question was about Masada. Just a little bit of background on the edge of a fork. Right at the end of the Roman conquest of Jerusalem and the Jewish rebellion, what's called the first Jewish-Roman War, have like a destruction of Yerushalayim, and have some manner of resistance for a couple of years thereafter. And we have rebels that are basically cornered on the top of of Mount Masada. And the question was regarding one of the clauses that we read. I'll just share my screen. One of the clauses that we read was about wartime, and just a second, sorry. Here we go. It was about wartime. Okay, so we said it's permissible to participate in war. Just for those who weren't with us, and just for some context, this whole chapter is talking about the preservation of human life. Okay, and then we said in clause 14 that it's permissible for a soldier about to be captured to kill himself if he suspects that his captors will torture him. And the footnote here refers us to the incident with King Saul. A couple of points on this. Firstly, if you just reading a little bit on Wikipedia and other articles, it's not so clear. Either according to like historical sources or according to the archaeological record, it's not exactly so clear what happened there. But even assuming that we go according to like the kind of well-known account that these rebels were cornered and that they took their life instead of being captured, even if we're taking that to be kind of the true account, it's also not so clear that the rabbinic tradition was so pleased with this decision. There's more to be said on the subject, but suffice it to say, it's not so clear what happened, and it's not so clear if it happened the way it happened. That like rabbinic Judaism, that the Torah that we have today, the tradition that we have today, aligns so much with what happened there. Okay, but I urge you all to do some homework. You can read around. I saw some excellent sources on the matter. There's also another rabbi who does a lot of great work on the internet. You may have heard of him, Rabbi Tovia Singer. Also does a lot of work with Noahides. Has excellent content on YouTube and elsewhere. So I saw a video of his. He was actually giving a tour of Masada and speaks about the matter. Fine. So just for some context, going back, we're
very important.
Yes, please.
The Noahide World Center is also doing spiritual tours, also to those places and everything else. We don't need the others. Okay. Sure. Okay. We'll speak about this. Fine.
Do you work with Rabbi Tovia Singer, Rabbi Chaim?
We know him. I don't want to go inside too much. We're not one against each other, but we're doing different things. But we know him. We Rabbi Sherki and me, we know him. We're speaking from time to time and everything else. But he's doing a bit different things. Not directly affiliated.
Okay. All right, great. So just for some context of what we learned so far, we're holding the third section, what I broke down as the third section here, talking about laws of man and his fellow, man and man. And it's very apropos to the Torah portions that we're learning at Parashat Mishpatim that we had this past Shabbat, the laws, the ordinances that deal with the nitty gritty, and all the commentaries go, how can we go straight from Parashat Yitro, where we're receiving the Torah and receiving, the whole nation is elevated to the prophecy of Moses, and now we're going to the nitty gritty of this ox now breaks your fence, and how do you go from so high to so nitty gritty? But this is as we say, this is the tachlis. This is the practical side of our Torah tradition that specifically wants to get into the dealings, business dealings and property damages, the family, etc. Okay, so as a part of all of this, we're talking about the preservation of human life. We spoke about a lot of bombshell clauses that I urge you all to go back and read and continue asking questions as I plugged in the past. Start sending in questions and refreshing the Q&A section on the website. Fine. Okay, so we left off right around here. And I think let's just go back on clause 15 again. And it reads, anyone who is threatened that if he does not kill another person, he will be killed, is not permitted to kill even at the expense of his own life. Okay, this is like the cardinal sin of murder. God forbid, if somebody is at gunpoint, says, I'm going to kill you if you do not kill this other person, then Noahide and Jew alike is required to give up his life and not take another life in such a matter. Okay, but regarding other major concepts like adultery and sexual relations or illicit relations, it's permissible for a Noahide to engage in these if he is forced to do so and he does not give up his life rather than comply. Okay, we spoke about this in a previous chapter. Okay, so clause 17. Please God, these should all be theoretical clauses for you and not practical. A person is permitted to save himself from someone who is pursuing him to kill him. Okay, somebody's, God forbid, trying to kill somebody. So a person is permitted to save himself by killing the pursuer if there is no other way to save himself. But if he can save himself by injuring one of the limbs of the pursuer, he's not permitted to kill him, but only injure him. You may see headlines like this regarding the conflicts or the wars that Israel finds itself in, where it's not enough force, too much force. There's been a whole very emotional debate about this in the United States over the past 6 months or so regarding proper use of force. But it's quite clear here. If there's no other way, then it's not a sin, it's a mitzvah. A person has to protect his life. However, if there is, and that's obviously where this gray area is, if there is a possibility of injuring a limb and disabling the attacker, then that's what we're commanded to do. And I guess we'll contrast this to if Rabbi Chaim was mentioning the superheroes. So you'll notice a common thread in superheroes like Batman, okay, where and this is very clearly Christian theology, influencing Western ideals today. One of the only things that Batman is not willing to accept is actually killing his foe. It doesn't matter if they're all about to kill him. He's not willing to go over this. This is like his cardinal sin. I will not kill. Thou shalt not kill, even if it's meant to preserve your own life. And so this is where the Torah is very clear. If somebody is coming to attack you, you have to put down your attacker. And this is a moral thing to do in the eyes of the Torah. Fine. Clause 18. A passerby who sees someone pursuing someone else in order to kill him, but cannot save the person being pursued merely by injuring the pursuer, is allowed to kill the pursuer. Okay, so now we have a third party, and he's seeing what's going on. He has no other way in order to save this person being chased, kills the pursuer. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, we have many such headlines in the Israeli press about you have guys who go through the military service and are either in reserves or those living in Judea Samaria are permitted to carry weapons. Okay, and you see somebody being attacked, and it's not necessarily military or police that go in and save the one being chased. It's actually a civilian who just happens to be equipped. So unfortunately, we have to sometimes put this clause into action. Okay, now clause 19, I want to spend some time on because there are a lot of interesting practical ramifications of this clause. Let's read it. It's coming straight out of the Talmud. It says, if two people are walking in the desert and one person has enough water to save himself alone, he is not obligated to give any water to the other person. Why? Since his life takes precedence over that of the other person. Okay, you have two friends, two colleagues, two soldiers, etc., going through the desert. They're far away from any inhabited place. They have just enough water to sustain one person. Okay, so the Torah states, the accepted opinion among our sages is that the one is not required to give of his water to his friend or to share the water, etc. I have some practical examples, but I thought maybe we would speak a little bit first about like the reasoning behind this law. I'd love to hear your thoughts about why this feels right, why it doesn't feel right. What are some other solutions? What you think might be some practical examples of this today, not just two people going in a desert. And then we'll talk about some like practical rulings from our sages up until the modern day. So, please. That's the crux of the ruling is how certain are we that both are going to die, right? So just to get like a little bit of our spiritual juices flowing, I wanted to look at some verses regarding like very chief values in our tradition. Okay, so the first is a phrase that appears all throughout our codes, our law codes. Okay, and it comes from which parasha is this? Parashat Acharemot. Okay, after the death of the sons of Aaron, it speaks about keeping the statutes, and it says like this. This is coming from Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 18. It says, "You shall observe my statutes and my ordinances, which a man shall do, and live by them. I am the Lord." Okay, the Torah is called the Torah of life. The Torah is meant to increase life in quantity and quality, as we've learned now in the chapters in Genesis. Peru Uruvu. God wants His world to be filled in quantity and quality, full of life, teeming with life, and it's this like underpinning that is applicable in such laws as Shabbat. Okay, so if a person, there's what's called pikuach nefesh, saving a life. So if God forbid somebody is in a life-threatening situation. Okay, so even though normally Jews are forbidden from driving on Shabbat, if it's to save a life, we go and we drive on Shabbat in order to save the life. Why? Because the preservation of life is so paramount. Okay, and this is like it's a phrase v'chai bahem. I can't see here. There we go. In the Hebrew, it's written v'chai bahem, and the person shall live by them. It comes to underscore that the Torah is a Torah of life. Okay, so this is kind of one end of the spectrum. It's very clear that we're looking for ways in personally and in our societies of increasing life. Okay, at the same time, we have another mitzvah, we have another commandment. This is also coming from Vayikra. Interestingly enough, all of these verses come from Vayikra. They're not very far from each other. And this is in Parashat Kedoshim. Okay, the Parashat of Kedoshim, thou shalt be holy. It's one of the Torah portions with the most commandments written in one parasha. I think it's something like 70 or 80. We spoke about it, if you'll remember, from last week or from weeks past, about, okay, you shall love thy neighbor as yourself. There's a slew of mitzvot here. Okay, the verse here in 16, this is chapter 19, verse 16. It says, you shall not go around as a gossiper amidst your people. Okay, and the mitzvah here is, you shall not stand by, or some translations are, you shall not stand idly by the shedding of your fellow's blood. I am the Lord. Okay, and if we look here in the Hebrew, it's lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. Okay, you shall not stand idly by your fellow's blood or your brother's blood. Okay, so if somebody is in danger and you're able to save him, it's a mitzvah to go out. You are commanded to go out and save this person. And if you don't, then you are going against the will of God to, as we said, to preserve life. Okay, so you can already see where we're going with this. It's possible that this mitzvah here, this commandment of going to preserve somebody else's life, maybe it'll come into conflict with the other one, which is that I should preserve my own life. Okay, and finally, and this is the verse that's brought in the Talmudic discussion. This is actually, this context is talking about ribit. It's talking about lending with interest, which is a separate discussion. Okay, but the derivation, the exegesis of our sages here, it says, let your brother live with you. And it says here in the Hebrew, v'chei achicha imach. Okay, the literal translation is, let your brother live with you. Meaning, don't take so much interest from him that he's not going to have enough money. You have to have some manner of mercy on him so that he shall live, and he should be living with you. But the opinion, and this is like the practical opinion in the Talmud, the opinion of Rabbi Akiva that's accepted as the law, he reads it as follows: V'chei achicha imach. It's true that your brother shall live, but who is he living with? He's living with you, meaning there needs you can't let's say give up so much you can't give away so much charity, let's say, where you have no money left for yourself. So there is a clear distinction here, because your brother needs to be living with you, as the verse clearly suggests. Okay, so there's this fine line between preserving myself and preserving the other. Okay, I just wanted to look at these verses to kind of get our juices flowing, and we'll come back to the practical, or to the example here that's also brought in the Talmud, and if you like, I can give some practical examples of some modern day. Okay, so again, we'll read. If two people are walking in the desert, and one person has enough water to save himself alone, he is not obligated to give any water to the other person, since his life takes precedence over that of the other person. And this is where, like, Judaism the Torah gets very practical. We have two paramount values here: the preservation of my life, and at the same time the preservation of my friend's life. But what are you supposed to do when these two values conflict with one another necessarily? And this is where things get sticky, and where we need to kind of put our thinking caps on. Okay, so some practical examples that are brought. This is from like the responsa of one of our former sages from this generation. He passed away a few years ago, Rabbi Avadia Yosef, of blessed memory. Okay, so he speaks about kidney donation. Would kidney donation be forbidden? Would it be permissible, but not necessarily a requirement, or would it be a full requirement? Okay, and you can see where this is going. You can see this.
That's the most very important thing.
Please.
You know that in Israel, okay, there is a very big movement of giving a kidney, donate a kidney, okay, to people who are ill. And we're speaking in the last 15 years, something like almost 4,000 people who donated a kidney to people they don't know. It's also not related if they are Jewish people or Arabic people, okay? People that they don't know to. People are donating their kidneys, one of the kidneys, to someone else. Just that you will realize that it is happening in Israel. And the rabbis were being questioned if this is allowed or not allowed. Okay, Lee, continue on.
Okay, another classic source that's brought is if you see somebody in danger. Okay, so a person is drowning, God forbid, and a person is walking by. Are you going to be required to go in and save him? Are you permitted from going in to saving him? Or maybe, I don't know, there's a strong current or something, and you're even forbidden from putting yourself at risk, because you could be putting your own life at risk at the expense of this, in order to save this other person's life. So I'd love to hear if anybody is already starting to kind of get the thinking going. I'd love to hear about why you think this law sits well with you. It doesn't sit well with you.
I would go ahead and
please.
A little bit. I believe, well, first off, we're commanded to love ourselves, right? because what is within us, the Father, the Creator is within us, right? Just as He's within everything else. And we're commanded to love our fellow man, but we are to love ourselves first so that we can respect and have the proper things. And we look at, okay, the water is in my hand. It was placed there for a reason. It wasn't, it may be a test, it may not be a test, but the test is the water was given to me. That was a blessing from the Creator. It was into my hand to do with. And so if I give up my life for another, I know my soul. I know how I would act. I know what I would be doing, especially if I'm good enough to actually have this conversation with myself. And I don't know what the other person might do or what harm he might do to another soul if I gave him the water, because God has directed where the water is to be right now. And that's how I would have to look at it. And that's what I'm looking at is everything is not predestined, but it is a blessing and it is given from the Father. And that's about all I have to say about it, I guess.
So I'll just, as we say, lakshot, I'll raise an objection to you again, just to get the, this was the fire of the Beit Midrash, of the Hall of Study, is when you had people of great stature debating a law. They would dig further and further and object this one to the other one and this one to the other one, and it's only through the objections that the law becomes more clarified and you learn. It's not when people agree and say, "Oh, it's nice," and then the discussion stops. So at the same time, what's to say that your blood is redder than mine?
It's not to say that.
So maybe we should say, look, but we should split the water, and whatever will be will be.
Well, we could do that, but then that would be circumventing the will of the Creator, in my opinion, because He put it in my hand, and I could make a vow to the Father or to the Creator and say, since it's mine, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be this good to the world, and I can make a better case for myself, because not knowing what's going to happen on the other, and my thing is the big sin, the big transgression we commit is harming another person's self-esteem, being their soul, whether we do something improper and they view it or whatever. And I don't know what the other individual might do to harm other souls.
Okay, so here you're talking about the comparative righteousness of the two individuals. So this is a very interesting point, and it's I'll mention that there's one of our sages some of our sages go in this direction. At the same time, you're saying, and I want to do the will of the Creator. This is what the debate of halakha, the debate of law, is in the Hall of Study. We are trying to use all of our precedent and all of the rules of exegesis that we've been passed down to arrive at what is the will of the Creator in this situation. And new situations arise. We have kidney donation. We have there's a question raised in the halakha in the Jewish law about amputation. Okay, if a person should amputate one of his limbs in order to save his friend. Okay, and now we're talking about like issues of the Sabbath. Okay, so we're dealing now about like artificial intelligence, and we're talking about self-driving cars, etc. So our sages have to use all of our precedent from Talmudic times, and of course all the rabbinic literature since, to arrive at, well, what does God want? What actually does God want from us in this situation? It's not so clear, and you see pages and pages and pages of logic in one direction, and then you'll see a sage say the exact same amount of logic, and everything looks tight logic on the other side.
True that. And another thing is, like, say I were caught out in the desert with you or Rabbi Goldberg, heaven forbid, and we come down to this. Am I going to be will I feel like I can do more good? No, I would feel you could do more good, but the water would still be in my hand, right? So to give it up, so I have to go back and I have to look at that. God takes the soul at the pinnacle of righteousness. And so maybe He's decided that it's time for them, and I would have time to repent or elevate or go up that ladder closer to God, and elevate myself higher. I don't know. See, that's a debate. It's hard, especially when you have empathy and care for other people. So this is a tough one, and you're right.
This is a toughie, Travis. So you have your chavruta here, right? The chavruta is in Hebrew. It's the study partner. So your study partner Tony here, he's obviously a match for your soul, because he's saying to you, maybe Hashem should put the water in your hand to give you the opportunity to save your friend.
Yes.
Okay.
There's so many things out there we can.
So you see, it's not so clear, and it's in fact, if you look at the Talmudic source, there are two opinions, and one opinion says that the water should be split, and whatever happens, happens. And the other opinion, which is the practical opinion of Rabbi Akiva, is that as we see here. So you mentioned about the person's righteousness. Okay, so there is. When this question was first posed to me, it was first, as Rabbi Chaim was saying about Shabbat tables. So this was really like my first foray into Judaism. I was invited to Shabbat at a couple of friends. I was living in Boston at the time, and singing songs and beautiful, delicious food and dressing nicely. And it's such an amazing departure from the, got to keep checking my phone and stay, worrying about my paycheck and all that stuff. It was an amazing. And now and the host presents this question, and also the practical applications of it. And says, wow, there are people who actually sit around and this is what they talk about in their free time, and not just how many likes you got on Facebook. I was blown away. So this was my foray into Judaism, and anyway, so a lot to be said about the Shabbat table, and as we said, it's for Noahides alike. So the question that I raised is along the lines that you're saying, Travis. There is a line of thinking in our sages that if the person who has the water is a simpleton, and the person who does not have the water is a tremendous sage, okay, and he could actually in the life that he's given, if he's the one who receives the water, he could in a kind of utilitarian point of view, he could actually save more life, okay, through his wisdom. So there is a direction amongst their sages that says that the simpleton should give the water to the rabbi, to the sage, because the rabbi can do a lot more with this tool than the simpleton can. Okay, but as you said, the kind of the simple black and white ruling in the opinion of Rabbi Akiva in the Talmud is the person is not obligated. So we talked about the example of kidney donation. We talked about the situation of amputating in order to save another life. There's another situation where there are two patients in a hospital, and there's just enough medicine to treat one of them. Okay, and so which should be treated? And there's two ways of thinking about the scenario. One is where one person has already the tools and he has the medicine in his hands. And he needs it in order to save his own life, okay? And a person sitting next to him has a similar disease and needs the exact same treatment. If this person is allowed to give away the medicine and risk his own life. And the other scenario is where the body that has the entity that has the medicine is the hospital, and that's a different scenario because now you have a third body, and they need to decide basically between which patient to save. Tremendously complicated, medical practical applications of Jewish law, of Torah law. So the basic breakdown. I saw a wonderful article breaking down all the Talmudic sources and going through the literature of the generations down to the present day. There's also an interesting side note. There was an Israeli law put into action, basically commanding a person in Israeli law to save a person's life. This mitzvah that we read about of not standing idly by your brother's blood, because an important point that I think I mentioned, but I'll repeat, is if a person has the opportunity to save a life and doesn't, he's basically going against this negative mitzvah. He's going against the will of God. I don't want to say he has a direct part in the ending of this life, but he missed this opportunity in saving life. And so that's also codified in Israeli law. Okay, so basically the breakdown is three levels. It's a shame I didn't write it down, but you'll bear with me. Okay. The simplest level is where there's little to no risk to party A. Okay. So let's say, Travis, you and me were walking along the desert. Okay. Just because we were having a conversation already. So I'll pick on you. Okay. So there's little to no risk to me to give you the water. In such a case, I am commanded to give you the water. Okay. Because this is lota model dam re'echa. My brother is it's as if, he's at risk and I'm sitting idly by while he's at risk. So if there's little to no risk involved to me, I am commanded. It's demanded of me to be actively involved in saving your life. Okay. Now we go up a notch where there's moderate risk. Okay. It's not certain that I'll be at risk, but or we'll choose different parties. We won't, God forbid, speak practically. So there's moderate risk to the first person. In such a case, they're not required, but they are allowed. They're allowed to put themselves at risk. And this is like what's called midat chasidut. This is like a tremendous risk assessment. Thank you, Angela and Mike. If we have any statisticians or accountants in the room. In such a case where there's moderate risk, so a person is not required, but it's a tremendous kiddush Hashem. It's a tremendous sanctification of God's name to be involved in saving this person's life. And finally, there's a case of high risk. In the case of high risk, it's a little bit fuzzier. Okay, because here it's quite clear that there's a very, very clear contradiction between saving my own life and saving the other person's life. Basically, a person may put himself at risk, but there are those who also say that he shouldn't, that it's forbidden to put yourself at risk in such a situation where there is a high risk to, I see a person in danger, and I'm at high risk if I get involved. Okay, so the practical ruling is that I may, and again, it's a tremendous sanctification of God's name in doing so. But there are opinions that practically say that it's forbidden for me to do so. Okay, again, because of this contradiction in values of saving my own life and saving the other life. Okay, so you can see that as the vision of John Lennon of imagine a world where there's just peace and everybody has that. It's not so easy. They have to do a lot of work in order to get there. How do we maximize life in quantity and quality? So we have to go, put our thinking caps on and get involved. Okay. I think there was a question here above. And that's okay. Angelica said that she has a tremendous soul because she sees a person drowning and she's not only able to swim, but it's a natural reaction for her to get involved and to save a life. So God bless you, and there should be more like you in the world. Okay, we're at 9:15, Rabbi Chaim. I can read just verse clause 20 here. Maybe we'll do more questions and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think
okay. Fine.
Let's
okay, so cool.
Yes, what you said, it's okay.
That's fine. Okay, we'll do clause 20 here. Okay. Again, this is kind of a general thread. Okay, so the Rambam, Moses Maimonides wrote, even though there are sins that are worse than shedding blood, none of them destroy civilization like shedding blood. Neither idol worship nor, needless to say, illicit relations are as bad as shedding blood. Idolatry and illicit relations are sins committed between a human being and God, whereas shedding of blood is a sin between one human being and another. And anyone who committed this sin is completely wicked, and no divine commandment or good deed he fulfilled can make up for this sin or save him from strict judgment. And God forbid anybody should be in a situation where they took another life unjustly, but you can see here that it is there are certain actions that are incredibly difficult to repent from. I say incredibly difficult, and I use that phrasing carefully because Judaism always leaves room for repentance. It's possible that repentance may come at a tremendously high cost, but that doorway has always remained open. And I'll just mention, we also spoke about the 10 Commandments. So you can see here also the fine line between, some of the sages say, some of the commentaries talk about the splitting of the 10 Commandments. and the first 5 being those between man and God, and the other 5 between man and man. We also spoke about this in the juxtaposition of Parashat Yitro, Jethro, and Parashat Mishpatim, the ordinances. The question is asked, like, basically, which is more important? It's, there's no like final say. They're both incredibly important to a holistic Torah approach, but you can see there's like a slight emphasis placed on the relation between man and his fellow. So we'll end on this, and there are questions for me, for Rabbi Chaim, and other academic questions that I'm sure you all have.
We learned a lot of important points tonight, very important points.
As I said in the beginning, I'll thank you all for your questions, because they give me plenty of homework, and I speak about, I learn through that, and I speak with my wife about them at times. Incredibly enriching for me. I hope for you all as well. But you're all very quiet tonight.
I have a question. It's not.
I'm not surprised, Travis. Please.
It's not got anything.
We love you, Travis.
It has nothing to do with this. I want you to pronounce a word for me. It is the word that means of the ark. It is Hey, Aleph, Resh, and Nun. And for me to say it in Hebrew, it sounds like I'm saying Haaron, and that sounds like Aaron, the right. Son. And I was just wondering, as I read this in Hebrew, I just find names that are spoken in the same way as the ark. So I was just wondering, could you pronounce the 2 different sayings for me?
So you pronounce them wonderfully.
You mean the word Aaron and the word Teiva are the same, similar.
I think he was talking about Rabbi Chaim. The word Ha'aron והשם Aharon. זה נשמע כמעט אותו דבר.
Okay.
It's a touch of the ear that hears the difference.
So as you rightly pointed out, your pronunciation was wonderful, by the way. But one is starts off with the aleph, right? So it's Aharon, and the of the ark is Ha-Aron.
Okay.
So it's obviously a different spelling, but interesting points. I'm not surprised. I said I'm not surprised. You bring up some wonderful points. It is worth mentioning that I think Rabbi Sherky said it in one of his classes, but there are sources that discuss the Egyptian nature of the names of Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam, that they may not necessarily have been Hebrew in origin. Okay, Moshe, it even says in the Torah that, right, Bitya, the son of the daughter of Paro, okay, she gave him the name, okay, because she pulled him out of the water. Okay, so and so too, I heard also about the name Aharon.
Okay, thank you.
Lee, if I may ask a question.
Hi, Paul.
How you doing, Lee?
I'm well, thanks. How you doing?
I wanted to get back to the kidneys if we can. I would think that it wouldn't be lawful to give a person a kidney if you're in pristine health, because it would diminish your health in some way. I know people that do have one kidney and their blood pressure is high because of the one kidney. And I'm pretty sure there's other health problems that come with that also. So I would think that it wasn't be permissible if you were to diminish your health. It would be like kind of in a way like taking poison. Am I correct on that?
So practically speaking, as Rabbi Chaim mentioned, there are organizations here in Israel that go out and try to help people through this process and encouraging people. Practically speaking, it is permissible. At the end of the day, practically speaking, a person needs to consult with his rabbi, he needs to consult with his physician to make sure that makes sense for his or her, a health profile.
It is true that it's a very altruistic thing to do, to take one of your kidneys and to give it to others. It is an altruistic thing, and you might get complicated after a few years. It might get
yes. Well, I was thinking more in the lines of when you donate blood or plasma, your body replaces the blood and plasma over time. But with a kidney, we cannot grow another kidney. That's the lines of thought I was in.
You're right.
Kindness has something to say. Charity has something to say. Does it not? I mean, when are you being truthfully kind or doing charity? I think if you're given a kidney, that's definitely a big charity, right?
Right, Dan, but we're talking about the contradiction, as we said earlier, about these two values. When is it correct to choose one over the other? It's a very, very fine line, what Paul is mentioning. If it's quite clear that it's going to put a person's life at risk, so it's not so clear that it's a mitzvah, that it's what God wants. It may be that for this particular case, we're talking about now the vaccines. Okay, so there's a lot of hoopla about the vaccines. Okay, but even our sages who say that it's a mitzvah to go out and get vaccinated, everybody's going to say, please speak to your doctor first, right? Because there are cases in which it's going to put a person's life at risk. If a person that has a weak immune system, or there's been a very hot debate about if pregnant women should be taking the vaccine or not. Because at the end of the day, a person needs to consult, right? But
yes, Lee, that's the point I was trying to bring up. I think it depends on the person's health, his age, the person's age, when giving something like that as they say, as charity. That you're trying to help somebody out, but as one should look out for oneself also.
100%, Paul. You're 100% right, and I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Rabbi.
Michaela, I have here a very good question, but I don't think I have a good answer for that.
I have a good answer, but she's not going to like it. Just recently, in the past couple of weeks, there was the brand new book of Rabbi Sherky published, but it's in Hebrew, so you'll have to work on your Hebrew.
You need to translate it from Hebrew to other previous weeks. Last week, it went out to two new books. But it's the truth is that the thing of the Messiah in the Hebrew tradition, mainly it was being passed in the esoteric Kabbalic stream. So it wasn't so popular, and it was only hinted in a few places in the Jewish tradition. And it's a very, you can read the last two chapters of the Maimonides in his main book, what we call the Yad HaChazakah, the main Maimonides book. You can read the few things about the Messiah, but again, it's only, on the surface. There is a lot of things, and a lot of books in Hebrew behind the surface.
I'll just mention one thing. Rabbi Chaim, it's brought in one of our early sources. Wonderful book. I mentioned it in the past. And there's a great English translation for it as well. It's called The Duties of the Heart. He speaks there about why the world to come is not so like clearly discussed in the Bible, and you have to rely more on the oral tradition, and there are hints at it in the Bible, but he discusses this to a degree. It's important to note that, like, again, Judaism is focused on the here and now, and bringing the world to the Messianic era and bringing the world to perfection. Exactly what will happen when we merit to the arrival of the Messiah and to what will happen from then on, that's like kind of academic. Let's put it that way. Please God, we'll get there, and then we'll discuss.
We'll see. Yes.
So is that about it, Rabbi? Are we going to sign off? We got 5 minutes or so. I do want to give a shout out. We did have my phone was ringing. That was, believe it or not, Rabbi Ariel Abel in Liverpool. So, we're really trying to spread our wings, put our footprints all across the globe, and let the light of Torah continue to shine in Israel, Rabbi. So it's always a joy. But yeah, you've got it. If you want to go for another 5 minutes, up to you, sir.
I think we can close it tonight. I think it was with very heavy issues that we spoke about, things to think, to realize, to adjust. And as usual, we have our emails and you can ask things and everything else. Hopefully, we will manage to bring the light also to England with Rabbi Abel, also to Italy with the other group that we're speaking from Milano. We have Milano, we have everything. And we will continue on. We will manage. We will manage to bring the world to the better place.
To a better place. You know, you've always said that. Ever since I met you, Rabbi, you know, that was part of the hook that said, I need to hear more of this coming out of Israel, because the first thing you said, need to make the world a better place. And how can you go wrong with such a notion, folks? So, folks, we're going to sign off. So, Rabbi, are we good for next Sunday, Hashem willing?
Hashem, yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Beautiful word today. Thank you, Lee, for sharing more of Brit Shalom. Always a joy. Folks, till next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank